everybody, and welcome back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, or welcome if it is your first time here. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I wanted to bring us a topic that talks about how we don't really have a lead problem in this industry, but we do have an alignment problem. And so I brought in a guest today that has experience in all different areas of home building. What we're going to talk about is about how buyers don't experience the buying journey in silos, but your teams do. And so with our sales teams, our marketing teams, our construction teams, our entire organization, if we're all telling different stories and there's a bunch of disconnects, what is that actually costing you as a builder? So we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about alignment. We're going to talk about the customer experience and where things actually break. So if that sounds interesting to you, please stick around and let's get right into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the marketing and mindset show for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, and around here we go beyond pretty pictures and we get honest about what's working, what's not, and what it really takes to build better brands, better experiences, and better teams. You'll find creative ideas, practical strategies, and conversations that actually matter. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. All right, everybody. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest today. I have Jeremiah Gore here, which I'm sure you all know. He is with Crossroads Training and Impact 88. So I am super excited to have you on today, Jeremiah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We have talked a little bit before, and you have been in all aspects of this industry, which was super interesting for me to hear. So I would love if you would kind of share your background a little bit with our audience today.
Absolutely. So coming out of graduate school, I landed with Toll Brothers, worked with Toll Brothers for 9 years in different roles. So sales and construction, managing either side of that or both of those. And then production building, operations manager. So still overseeing sales and construction, to a division president at one point, and then land development, land acquisition. So all the roles except for mortgage. There's too much math, thanks. But I think other than that, I've dabbled across all of it just because the goal was always a division president. Was successful there. We were so successful that we made ourselves attractive for a purchase. So someone came in and bought us out here in Texas, and then just danced back and forth between the sales and construction roles, which kind of leads me to what I do now, which is training both the construction side of our business and the sales side of our business.
Your whole career sounds so interesting. And I think that's probably what led you to your role now. You have so much knowledge of all the different aspects of what home builders do. You're able to bring in some insights that other people don't have. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, knowledge, and a lot of people tell you opinions, right? That's the other side of it. When I was younger, and sometimes I felt my opinion was a little too important, but now as a trainer, you take all of that experience and you learn these things from my first mentor, Tom Murray, to a book that you read last week, and you take all of those things together and you try to share those. And so that's where the opinionated side of me actually benefits. But yeah, there were probably stretches where people that I worked with were like, man, could you turn it down a little bit? Absolutely.
I think we're all like that when we're younger. We have a lot of opinions and we're the most important person ever. So.
Absolutely.
Today, I wanted to talk about the customer experience journey, but really it's going to be a big topic, right? We talked about in our prep, we talked about alignment, we talked about customer experience, we talked about where things break and silos. So I want to kind of intro that topic today with a pretty basic question about what do you think when you think of customer experience, what does that actually mean and where does it start?
Yeah, so customer experience really is from a customer's perspective, right? Is the overall, let me say it this way. When I first got started, Tom, my first mentor, he said, "What kind of company do we work for?" And I thought, okay, construction. And then I thought he was thinking larger real estate. And it was like, no, we're a sales company. And we don't sell houses, we sell homes, right? That was the lesson. But I would argue 20 years later, we're not selling homes, we're selling experience, because our lot supply, the lots are 75 by 130 or whatever in any given city. There's only so many ways you can build a 4-bedroom house on that. And so therefore we're building very similar product. So when we focus on the product, we're missing it. But if we focus on the experience, that's when we start winning. And when you think about the experience, where does it start? It starts the first moment that buyer knows you exist. So it might be a old school, a sign, a bandit sign that's out on a weekend. It might be that sign sitting on the side of the road. That might be the first time they've ever heard of you as a builder. Most likely it's a Google search or now AI search as to the top builders in the area. And then they go to your website and start looking. So really, if you think about it, marketing is where that customer experience starts. And too often, I think home builders, when they think of customer experience, they think of what kind of closing gift can we give them? Do we give them a keychain? Do we give them a blanket? Right? We're missing the boat. That's not really the customer experience. That is a gift. The customer
Mhm.
experience starts from the moment they know you exist as a home building company, all the way through closing and as they kind of live in that home. So all of that includes the customer experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think as home builders, we break it up in our mind because there's different teams that take care of that customer and we have different processes internally. But when you really think about it, the customer's journey starts the minute they're like, okay, I need to buy a new home. And what builders are they researching? How do they find you? All of those things. And I love what you said about we're all kind of building the same home. It's so true. It's funny because I've said similar things like that to builders, and you can just see them be like, but no, but we're
Right.
special.
Yeah, you
It's
don't
like,
understand.
yeah,
We,
you don't get it, but it's
we have cedar
well,
accents on our elevations. Cool. I
cool.
I live in the DFW area, Dallas Fort Worth, and there's certain suburbs of Dallas Fort Worth where it is so homogenous. As you drive through that neighborhood, there's stories of people visiting family. They go out for a run in the morning and they go back into the wrong home because as you go down the street, there's three builders in this neighborhood. Now, as a home builder, I know which one is which builder, and I can pick them apart because we're in this business. But as a buyer or just a customer walking through that neighborhood, they really don't know because they're all the same. And the cities have required, there's so much regulation in so many of these cities that it's just, yeah. So it's turned into this just bland, this vanilla. And so all the reason why our experience has to stand out that much more.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's so funny too. Like, I cannot imagine.
Right? Just
I've
rolling
been
in.
in,
Can you opening the door, walking in like it's your family's house and you walked into somebody else's Thanksgiving? Yeah. And in Texas too, we're a little different down here. You might be welcomed with a gun. So yeah, it's not exactly a warm welcome. Sometimes you walk in the wrong home. Then again, somebody
yeah,
might invite you in and you might have a little Thanksgiving breakfast with them. You just never know.
you never know. I might have new friends. I think Arizona is exactly the same. What there are neighborhoods where I'm like, make sure you know the house number because every single house is going to look the same. And
Yep.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's as home builders, these are big challenges, and it's something that I talk about a lot from the marketing side of like, how do we talk about ourselves and what we offer without and differentiate yourself from everyone else without making it all about us, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not about us, it's about the buyer and what they need. So it's a real problem sometimes. That's a real puzzle. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that and how builders should approach their marketing today, knowing that this is such a puzzle that we're working on.
Yeah, I think the issue that I've seen over the years is sometimes you'll see different home builders have different issues with it in terms of alignment. So it's that kind of constant messaging, the external messaging that we're throwing out into the world. So it starts with marketing. It could be like, hey, we're a luxury home builder. Cool. You then go to sales, and not only do you not have anything to drink in your model, but you definitely aren't luxurious with your great value brand water, right? I don't know if we can say brands, but we all know that if you're throwing out Walmart water and you're calling yourself a luxury builder, you're already starting to miss the mark a little bit, let alone, and then you hand off to the builder at some point. And again, there's no luxury combined to this effort whatsoever. It's like the builder shows up and he asks to borrow a pen from the customer because we can't even buy our builder's pens, right? We're that luxurious. And so I think it's one of those where our messaging has to align from beginning to end. And I think too often marketing will get caught up in what sounds good, and then sales gets caught up in what sells the home, and then construction, they're just let me get out of my way and let me build the house and forget why they're there really. And so when you have that misalignment, I think that's when we start seeing some things go off the tracks a little bit. So when we can get that alignment across the different departments, one, I think it helps break down those silos because
Mhm.
now we're actually working together as a team and we have one unified message that we're putting out into the world. We're all delivering on that same message. And
Mhm.
too often you'll see some of these departments They're so siloed that they are just speaking different messaging along the way. And every time we do that, we're just losing trust with the customer, setting
Absolutely.
ourselves up for failure, really, right? Because we're setting expectations that we'll never achieve on the construction side.
That's trust you cannot get back when things don't align. But I feel like you lose that trust in smaller moments than you realize. Like it's not the big things that the buyer's going to remember as much as it is just not trusting that everybody here is here for my best interest. That's the kind of trust you just don't get back.
Oh, yeah. It's the little conversations, it's the
Mhm.
little things they notice because they don't bring them to your attention. Sometimes, actually, the big moments give us the opportunity to elevate the trust because there's this negative situation that occurs in their home, something gets delayed significantly. How we handle that as a home building company can actually elevate the trust we have with that customer. No one expects the journey to be perfect, especially if we tell them in the beginning, hey, by the way, this is not going to be perfect. As we go through that, if we communicate well and we deliver on the expectations that we set or surpass those expectations even better, we have the opportunity to elevate that trust rather than if nothing had ever actually gone bad. So when they've surveyed all of these buyer journeys, the buyer that appreciates their home more is the ones that still have a bit of a hiccup along the way. Now, we're not encouraging anybody to artificially create those. Don't do that. But when there is an issue with the home or a delay or whatever, and that home builder handles it well, they elevate the trust with that customer than if nothing ever bad happened. So you're right. It's not the big moments. The big moments actually have the chance to make it better. It's the small moments. It's the small conversations. It's the sideways glance that the builder gives them when they ask what the builder considers a dumb question. It's the fact that sales got their buyer story to sell the home, but didn't share the buyer story with the builder, and the builder shows up to a pre-construction meeting not knowing. So it's like that time you go into a doctor's office and it seems like you meet three different medical professionals and every one of them asks you the same questions. You're like, do y'all talk to each other? Do they even work here? Because they were asking me a bunch of questions. And so, yeah,
They all put it into the computer, but I don't know where it goes. So
like
true.
I think the last one doesn't work here. That's what I think. I think they just came in to see what they could get away with. That's what I think.
Hope not. Yeah, it's so true. And I think as home builders, we're aware of some of the silos. I think we don't focus on all of them, though. I think the biggest silo is sales versus marketing and the whole blame game that we play there. That one shows up very often for us. But I think it's important as a builder to look at all of your different departments and look for silos, not just focusing on sales and marketing.
Right.
Although, in my opinion, I might be biased. I think the sales and marketing one is the biggest, but who knows?
I think it generally is seen larger because, marketing it's so out there, right? It's so visible. Construction, generally the personality that works in construction isn't going to say anything unless they're asked about it or until it becomes a fire that's got to be put out. They're just going to deal with it and they're just going to move on, so they're not really going to elevate it. Sales, obviously, they're generally more vocal, so they're going to kind of tell everybody what they need because the pressure is on them to get those sales every month. And if everything's not right, and a lot of the time they may not want to look inward, so they're going to start pointing fingers outward. And so when you start looking at that, you're right, there's a great opportunity for sales and marketing to point fingers at each other because it's okay, is it the traffic? Do we have qualified traffic or do we have qualified leads or do we have appointments, right? Add in the OSC to that. The online sales department, do they work for marketing? Do they work for sales? There's this weird bridge in here, the pressure on them to set the right appointments. But if you're not setting enough appointments, I think it's because every single department feels this pressure to perform. And rather than see them as a team working together with different roles, it's no marketing. You have this throughput that you got to have, right? Here's so many units of traffic. You got to have so many leads. And then the OSC sees you have so many leads, you got to set so many appointments. It's gotten so process driven. We kind of forgot that people are responsible for it. And we've forgotten that teams, like, when you have a sales event or a sales get together, are you inviting marketing and OSCs to be a part of that? Sometimes OSCs are considered part of the sales function, sometimes they're not. But are you inviting marketing to be a part of that? Because it's really a function, right? Marketing and sales have to work hand in hand. And sales has to be able to provide. Here's the legit traffic. I'm old school, right? We used to do visitor cards and we would track old school marketing with just simply asking a buyer. Now we can see some of that data digitally and where those footprints are, and we can see it more scientifically. But it still comes down to salespeople, if you're not providing accurate data on the people walking through your door, the marketing then can't react to it to adjust the spend. But on the flip side, sales is I'm going to put drive by, I'm going to put signs. And so therefore our ownership groups will still say billboards work and signs work because that's what our on-site sales team's saying is that signs are working. When you and I both know money spent on billboards generally is not money well spent. There are always exceptions, specific location with a down arrow, like right here is where we're at. There's some branding, general branding. Hey, we exist in the world and you want to throw some money at branding, knock your lights out. But for the most part, home builders and spending money on billboards, for the most part, doesn't work. And so you're like, we need marketing and sales working together on that task, not pointing fingers to see if we can get something better. Absolutely. Sorry. I'm a son of a Baptist preacher, so you can ask me one question and I'll answer. We'll spend this whole time on one question if you don't cut me off. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's good. There's a lot to say about it. And I think there's also a lot of ways that we can break that down as a company. And I've seen a few builders do that really well. I wonder, have you seen companies do that well? And what did that look like?
I think it goes back to the same thing we have to get with our customers. I think it goes back to trust. And one of those, probably the strongest teams I've seen do this. And I know there's a bunch out there that do this well, but that I was involved with back then, it was called Guillen Homes, and now it's called, I don't know what, right? It's been bought and been bought again. I think it's is it part of DRB Group now, or do you know?
I
Anyway,
don't know.
so yeah, but back then it was Guillen. And their marketing team was as good a marketing team as I've ever seen. They're rock solid. And they were able to build trust with the teams because they were so good at what they did. They saw it both analytically, being able to justify, hey, this is where we're spending money. This is why we're spending it here. And they were transparent about it with anybody that was interested. And then at the same time, so the analytical side was great. And then the visual side, right? Just make it pretty. That side of it was also phenomenal. And so when you had that from the sales floor, it was like we trust them because they're doing so great at the job. Same thing, Antares that became Lancy, that became Risewell, that became something else. That group, Carrie Davis at the time ran that group for them. And she was phenomenal because analytically she understood what the role was, but then visually they were also able to make it happen. Their realtor events were probably some of the best that I've ever seen because they focused on the details, but then they saw, okay, what would impact realtors being here? So I think it's when the marketing group engages with the sales team and doesn't just stand over here in a corner, and when the sales team in turns engages. So again, I think it's just breaking down those silos, but then finding opportunities to build trust. And sometimes that's because they're effective in the role that they're in. And sometimes that's because they see themselves as a cohesive unit and not a combative unit.
I like that. I think it takes a lot of transparency between the divisions. And I've been in a lot of sales and marketing meetings. And a lot of times what I've seen is I'm sharing analytics of what we've seen in our last paid ad campaign or whatever it is. And I'm sharing all these numbers and everyone's eyes just glaze over and they're like, okay, whatever. But I feel like that is a culture thing. And it's, you have to understand, why is this important? Number one. And number two, something that I learned the hard way is that not everyone cares about all these numbers that I care so deeply about. So cut that down, share what they actually do care about, and make it a conversation where we can all contribute rather than I'm spouting numbers at you, you're telling me random things. We're not really aligning on what truly matters to each team. And I don't know, just being conscious of that.
I think anytime you can know somebody's why, I'm a why guy. It's gotten me in trouble a few times over the years because I've reported to people who don't know the answer to why. And I'm not one to sit idly back and just accept we do it that way because we've always done it that way. I'll push back on those ideas. But I think in the same token, if marketing department will understand the salesperson's why, not necessarily why they show up for work each day, but the why of why and what I'm about to share with them, why does it matter to them? Because yeah, most salespeople are going to be like me. We're high eyes in terms of disc personality profile. And a lot of marketing people will be a little more S or C minded. And if you follow more to the C side of that, you're more analytical or polar opposites. The analytical to the fun, you kind of the think of your normal salesperson. Those are polar opposites. And when they try to communicate with each other, they're talking different languages. And so the analytical wants to provide all this data, and the salesperson's looking at them going, dude, I checked out after your second sentence. You wrote 9 paragraphs in this email talking about marketing strategy. I read 2 sentences and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm done. And so I think there's sometimes just miscommunication, just from a basic personality and how we communicate with each other in general. But I think when you add in the pressure of marketing versus sales, then yeah, I think you have an opportunity for some miscommunication there. And everybody's goal is the same,
I
right?
know,
Is
I
to
know.
increase leads, to increase appointments, and therefore increase sales. That's everybody's goal. And so sometimes I think we just have to step back and remind ourselves we're all in this boat together. We all have different roles to play to make this thing work, but we're all in this together. This doesn't operate without all of us doing our roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think as in leadership, we can, if we talk about that more, if we bring that up, if we bring our teams together and do those personality quizzes and stuff, those tests, I think those are so helpful because it really breaks that down into a way that more people can understand it. And we do that at Share Drive. And I have it on a sticky note right here that I sit and look at every time because when I have a miscommunication or when I have a specific type of task, I'm going to either communicate it differently or pick a different person to communicate it that has the traits that are going to work best. And it's just the fact of life. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And as a leader, we have to understand that within our own team and build processes around it. I think a lot of times, at least here in marketing, we go back and forth between is it a lead problem or a process problem? And that's just it's just always a fight of I'm bringing in a bunch of leads in marketing, but what is happening after they get there? And so that's something too. I think a lot of home builders have process problems.
They do. And I think part of that, I think there's 2 things. One, I think you look at old conversion metrics. So 20 years ago, when I started, 1 out of every 10 people walking through the door of your model home, you should convert them to an agreement, right? 1 out of 10, 10% rule. If you're still following that rule, you're behind, right? Because that buyer now has visited your website countless times. They know more about your floor plans and your lots and your community than your on-site might even know if they haven't been there long. So by the time they actually get out of their car and are willing to face a salesperson, they know they're there for a reason, generally, right? Anytime you say that, you always have a salesperson go, I just sold one the other day that they didn't even know existed. You're like, okay, bro, I get it. But that's like a one-off example. In general, they have visited our website so many times. So that I think part of it is one, that old conversion metric is old. Two, what we see right now, salespeople generally, again, are not asking for the sale. And whether we're using AI tools that can now track those conversations, or you're old school and you do video shops, or you're even more old school and you just sit in the other room and listen to the live presentation and you hear them ask for the close, they're asking it in a way that's, hey, hey, Sarah, could you see yourself living in this community? And then you go, hey, did you ask for the close? They're like, yeah, I did. You're like, no, you didn't. You did not. You asked a preference question. You asked, could they see themselves living here? Not, are you ready to buy this home today? And so because of that, I think we've got some salespeople. The COVID years did not help us with our sales game. It really reinforced to a lot of people they were better at this job than they actually are. And so I think there's some people that don't actually have the skills to sell in this market because they either, one, aren't getting the buyer's story, or two, they're not actually asking for the agreement. And if we can elevate that one thing on the sales floor, to your point, there's a process problem because we're not actually asking for them to make a decision today and buy this home today. And then they're like, yeah, but if I ask that, they may say no. Okay, yeah. And if they did, they'd probably give you an objection. And then you
Mhm.
would be able to either work through that objection or maybe realize you're not the builder for them, let them go down the street and work on the next one. I think we have a huge problem right now with a lot of salespeople pointing their finger at marketing saying, well, I need better leads or I need more leads, when the sales team just needs to convert the ones they have rather than go into chase more. But that's just me on my soapbox, that I don't think we're converting as well as we should be across the board. You're always going to have good closers. You're always going to have natural closers. But that skill of closing and that reinforcement that they need to do it every single time somebody's in front of them, even if they don't think they're going to buy from them. You could go out and I'd be at a model home and you'd be out there and go, I hate this. This is gross. I don't even like this. I would never buy a two-story, and I'm in a neighborhood that only sells two stories. I'm still going to ask you, but that's my personality. But I would still be like, so Sarah, obviously we've met none of your needs today, but are you ready to take this home off the market? Because I don't want to be out of the habit of asking every single buyer for the sale. And it's, we joke about it, but it's, you should commit to it regardless. Somebody says, we're just looking for decorating ideas. Okay, ask for the close before they leave, because odds are nobody's walking through your model home looking at decorating ideas. No offense to most builders that'll be listening to this. Your model homes aren't that great. Okay. They're just not.
And you could do that on your website, right? There's pictures of the
Yes,
decorating.
pure walkthroughs. And guess what? They'll get better decorators from Pinterest with AI now, right? When they walk in and they're like, I want this wine cellar underneath my island. You're like, bro, you're buying a $400,000 house. We're not building wine cellars underneath your island. Take that AI photo away. Yeah. No.
It's interesting because I do think COVID, like you said, it didn't do wonders for us. It was like, it's hurting us now, I think. And now I think a lot of people want to say, oh, we're just in a hard market and leads are down. However, it doesn't, what are you comparing that to? And I feel, to me, I'm like, this is a normal market. We're just having to work again. And that's on both sides, on marketing and on sales side.
Yeah, you got to put your big boy pants and get to work, because it's not the lay down market where people just walked in and said, do you have a home? I'll buy it. It's not that. It's not even into that kind of market where it's a pure seller's market where you're still in, I think we're in a normalized market now where we actually have to go to work. And the people that invest in themselves, or the companies that invest in their teams right now, are the ones that are winning. And we see it. The well trained teams are winning in these markets. And that's not to say well trained doesn't mean you spend a lot of money, because you can spend a lot of money and your team not be well trained, because it also requires your leadership to be fully on board and hold accountability to the training. Are they actually using what they're learning, or are they just kind of cool, I got it, and then they go back to what they've been doing all along? And look, obviously I work with Impact 88 on sales framework and the sales system that Ryan Taft put together. Regardless of who you use as a sales trainer, if your sales leadership's not holding your team accountable to using it, then it's worthless to spend the money, honestly. And just go hire a motivational speaker to come in and do a rally every so often, get them fired up, because you're basically doing the same thing. So I think the sales leadership has to be focused on, are we converting every lead possible? Are we doing everything we can with the people walking into our models? On the OSC front, are we converting enough of the leads to appointments? Are we, sometimes we see OCs holding onto those appointments too long, trying to almost sell the home before they even send them out, because they don't want to hear back from the field of, you're sending too many appointments. They don't even know. So it's that delicate balance, and it's all the way through. Every department just needs to know every single department is dealing with that delicate balance. It was like the first time I worked for production builders, we don't have, our cancellations aren't high enough. Now, when I worked at Toll, cancellations were like, they were, we did not celebrate cancellations, right? It was like,
Yeah.
who's getting fired? And then I moved to the next builder, and it was like, wait, our cancellation's not high enough. And I said, what does that mean? Because you're not writing enough agreements. Because if your cancellation high, and you're like, yeah, but why would we do that? Those buyers will have some reason to move on from us. But if we're not selling enough homes, then we're leaving opportunities on the table. And what you would find there is the salespeople just wouldn't go for the sale aggressive enough. They were waiting for perfect buyers in the perfect moment in the perfect home. And that just doesn't exist.
I think there are a lot of people that they spend so much money on training or tools or whatever, and they think that it's going to be just this magic button of, oh, that's going to fix everything. And if you don't have the structure around you, you don't have the leadership that's going to, like you said, hold people accountable, you might as well just take that money and just throw it away. Like,
Yeah,
it's not going to
every
do any
once in a
good.
while, it's one of those we always talk about. You don't want to just take check the box training as a trainer, because you actually want to
Mhm.
make impact and provide transformation for their teams. And I think it's true of every trainer that I know, right? From the big names that everybody's heard of to the people that are regional and that only the builders that work with them have heard of. And most everybody is in it for the right reasons. But regardless of what they're teaching or how they're teaching it, if you don't have pure buy in from the sales leadership and accountability on that team, I talked to a group. We just did our collab event last week, and part of that was there's people on your team that shouldn't be. We've all been to a training. It could be any type of training. And either in the midst of training or after the training's over, somebody leans over and this is a bunch of junk. That person, I'm never using this. You shouldn't use this. And they're talking to the person that's been in the job for 2 weeks who doesn't know how to sell anything. And they're like, this isn't how you do it. You should just do what I do. And you're like, the sales leader is responsible for that person. That person's not, it's not their fault that they're an idiot, but it's the sales leader who allows them to be an idiot and stay on their team. That's where sometimes I think our sales leadership is allowing some of that to happen rather than taking charge of it. And I know it's difficult because if I manage this person out and I've got to replace this person consistently sells 2 or 3 a month. Yeah, but they're 2 or 3 a month. It may be costing you 1 or 2 deals per person with the rest of the team. So yeah, there are 2 or 3 that they are consistent with. Maybe you may be losing 8 to 12 sales a month with the rest of your team because of what they bring energy wise to the rest of the room. So yeah, I think our leadership has to see this market for what it is, which not just our salespeople need to show up and do their job, but our sales leadership, which is probably the least trained. Same thing with construction leaders. It's, hey, you're really good at your job. Here, let's give you a completely different job and a cool title. And maybe we'll bump your car and gas allowance. Here you go. And then, oh, by the way, if you're in sales leadership, we're going to make less money doing more work, but here you go. And that's the training. That's really it. That's all you really get. And so I think a lot of times people just don't know that, hey, this is up to you now. Your sales team is a reflection of what you hold them accountable to. What you tolerate today becomes your tomorrow. And if you tolerate that bad behavior today, you can't complain about tomorrow because you're the reason why it exists.
Those are hard lessons to learn. They really are. Like it sucks to have to
You can
learn
either
that,
learn
but
them way over time or you can learn them by listening to your podcast. Either way, Sarah.
oh. That's right. Listen to that, you guys, because the alternative is a really hard lesson and it sucks to learn. And I've
Right?
seen it so many times.
It really is. You don't want to learn it the hard way.
No. I want to ask you just a few more questions as we're coming to the end of this episode. I want to ask, I always save the hard ones for last, just so you know. If you could give the industry one piece of advice, or if you were like, just focus on this one thing over the next 60, 90 days, what would it be?
I would say listen first, solve second. So it could be, if you're thinking marketing's talking to sales, listen to what they're actually trying to tell you, not just the words that are coming out of their mouth, but what are they really trying to say before you step in and start trying to solve that problem. If you're on the sales floor, it's don't sell anything in the first couple of minutes. Don't put your sales hat on. Put your listening hat on it. So I give a talk and it's a mom hat, dad hat. You'll see it over here on my shelf. And it's because my daughter, when she was 7, we weren't really talking real well. We weren't communicating effectively. And it's because I was always wearing the proverbial dad hat. I was always walking into those conversations trying to solve her issue or solve this problem when she wanted me to wear mom hat. And so I had these made and literally have her bring them to me. And which hat do you think she brought me more often, Sarah? She brought me the mom hat almost all the time. And here I was previously always wearing dad hat in those conversations. And so I think too often, and in our industry especially, because we're providing solutions to someone's pain. Generally, someone has pain, we provide them a solution with this brand new home. So regardless of the role that we're on the team, we're wired to provide this solution for you, right? Oh, you have a traffic problem. Let me provide you the solution. Or you have let me give you the solution. And instead, we need to step back and listen a little bit longer. That would be the biggest thing. And to myself, right? Like, I could look back to different places I've worked. And if I would have just listened more, then what is it? The old God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? If I would have done that in my own career, I don't know. I don't know what it would have done. I just know probably a lot of other people would have enjoyed working with me more if I would have been listening more than trying to fix their problems.
Yeah, I think it takes confidence to do that, but that's a whole nother topic. I could
That's
go
a
on
whole
forever.
different podcast.
I know it really is. Okay, so next question before we end. If there's something, what's the one thing that you wish builders would understand about the buyer journey?
The one thing I wish builders would understand about the buyer's journey, communication. Number one, communication. Every single person that is customer facing needs to be trained on how to communicate effectively. They don't know it inherently, especially your building staff. Salespeople generally can get by with, I'm a natural salesperson because they're outgoing. For the most part, your builders aren't. Their personality, what makes them great builders, is the same personality that's going to cause conflict with their customers. So they need to be made aware of it. So how can you elevate your communication from the marketing to online sales, handoffs between those two? All of that elevates that communication to the customer. If you can do that, be a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. If people from that are listening right now would like to reach out to you, either for customer experience training or sales training, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Okay, so choose crossroads.com. So that's Crossroads. That's my company that we focus customer experience and construction leadership with. If you're interested in sales training, go to impact88.com. And either way, it's one of those, wait, what? And it's very clean. Customer experience, construction, Crossroads, sales, go to Impact 88. Obviously, they can come to Crossroads and ask me any questions and I can help find their way. But either way, we have the ability to impact the experience, elevating the communication, creating trust with a customer, and carrying that trust all the way through. Ultimately, that's what I do, regardless of which company you'd work with, is how do we elevate that experience from marketing all the way through them living in their home years later. Absolutely.
Great. And you're on LinkedIn as well.
On
I will
LinkedIn,
put
on Instagram. Yep. Jeremiah Gore, or Instagram's Jeremiah Gore in 1999.
Okay, I will put all of those links in the description box so you guys can just click to them. Definitely go and reach out. You support amazing companies, you have amazing trainings, and I think a lot of builders could really find a lot of value in what you guys offer. Definitely, listeners, go and click those links. And thank you for being here. I am so thankful for all of our listeners, so thankful for all of our guests. And you guys make it so I can do this every day. So it's really fun. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Jeremiah, for donating your time today. It was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, before you click off of this video, please and share it with someone and come back next week for another episode. Thanks so much. Bye.